Job 1, verse 20. Job 1, verse 20. Live through it. We're going to live through this. Trouble don't last always. How many know that your pain has an expiration date on it? And it stays but for a night. And when morning comes, it gets its eviction. That it will not take up permanent residence in my life. That when morning comes, make sure he get his walking paper. Yeah. You can live through it. Find your Bibles if you found them. If you have your Bibles, if you don't have them, share with your neighbor. Job, first chapter 1, verse number 20. And it reads like this. And this, Job got up, tore his robe, shaved his head, then he fell on the ground in worship. It was after this, Job got up, tore his robe, shaved his head, then fell on the ground in worship. Yeah. I don't need 21 to hear what he has to say. All I need to know what is said in verse 20. He fell on the ground. He got up, tore his robe, shaved his head, then he fell to the ground in worship. You've been ready giving you my topic for today, living through loss. Living through loss. Living through loss. Come on, look at your neighbor and say, live through it. Live through it. Man, be seated all over the house. It is no surprise on some of you, if you're not, this week has indeed been turbulent for the entire Calvary family. My sister Angela, Sister Owens, and their family, and even still not even getting over, dealing with the loss of my uncle. That this has been a tough 2 weeks span. In 2 weeks, we have faced such hard times. And one of the things that you prepare, where you say you're going to say something, and then real times come and then you have to adjust what you have to say. That you can't go as planned. There's times where the times dictate what you're going to say. Although we may, as sometimes as preachers, we have things lined up for where the church is, but sometimes the times where we are speaking to the times, and then sometimes the times speak to us. And we have to be flexible enough to give God room to talk, because saying something outside the time is inappropriate. Just the way you wear something to a certain occasion I believe preaching should be fitting to the occasion. That you need to discern the time and adjust what you have to say to make sure you are giving comfort to those that might be suffering loss. Are you with me, somebody? Yeah. And so one of the duties for every leader and pastor, besides praying and preaching, it's to help navigate the hearts and minds of the church, whether individually or collectively, as to keep them focused as they travel through the sunshine of success and also the storms of suffering. That it is our duty to make sure we can keep the church and navigate it through these two opposite times, from the highs and the lows, to prepare, to help process, and to push and pull those through the calamities that they're going to face. All the while making sure they keep their worship life intact. But don't miss that. All the while navigating them through the tough times while keeping their worship life intact. Because my dear brothers and sisters, when we face grief, when we are facing tough times, it's easy for our mouths to be filled with profanities. If you're real enough, you know when you go through some hard times that the first thing you want to do is curse. But it's another thing that through those times, keeping your mouth full of praise. That's important. If you scan this entire room, come on, scan the room. Look over. Scan the room. Scan the room. Don't just look at me. Scan around. Look at the person next to you. Look at the person you share in the row with. Make eye contact. Make your eyes make 4 or make 6. Or if it's two people with glasses, Mr. Keith and I just made 8. Scan the entire room, because disappointment will affect every single person. Yeah. Every person you locked eyes with will experience disappointment, a calamity, sooner or later. My mother used to say, mark the date, mark the time, which was that was more of a warning. But you can set your watch to it that there will be a time, there will be a moment where disappointment will show up at your house. Whether you expected it, or unexpected. Whether you are preparing for it, because some of us know there are distant disappointments coming, and we have the opportunity to brace ourselves for the loss. And then there are some where it's out of nowhere. Taking a shower, you scan and you feel a lump. You go to the doctor, do a blood test, and you get a call 2 weeks, you may have to come in, we seen something. That you walking to work, bright and strong, and HR calls you into the office and tell you that today might be your last day. Yeah, we all, sooner or later, will have to face it. And today we have to talk about how to live through it. How do we deal within ourselves without being robotic, without being insensitive, because sometimes we can be insensitive to people's pain, where we can say, just pray about it. And we brush it off like praying is going to make this better. And I've been praying a long time. and things. I wish I had real people in the house of the Lord. That we walk up to the altar with oil, with the expectation that deliverance is going to happen, and yet we go home and it's still there. And it's an insult to say you need to pray harder than you are, because it makes it seem like your prayer life is ineffective. I wish just two people in here. And I'm not saying that you don't, but it's sometimes we have to be wise in our words while people are going through suffering. Yeah. The story of Job is one that we all in here, we know the story of Job. It is comes to no surprise to us. It is placed in the Bible for us readers to view a life with unexplained suffering. Sometimes suffering, you just can't explain it. And the first chapter that you read, and if you have read the first chapter, you maybe you can scan through it while I'm speaking to you, that we are introduced to him because the Bible wants us to understand his character. The Bible wants us to understand his character, that he is blameless. It's doing that on purpose so that none of the struggles he go through, you won't make the correlation and say, because he's a sinner, then he's struggling. That it gives you his information about his life, because as I just said previously, we can be lazy with our assessing of people's life, because we believe that simply if they pray more or they did something, then they are reaping what they sow. That we tend to love to analyze people's life because we can comfortably resolve the issue that they're facing. Because they don't come to church, this is why this is happening. If they paid their tithes more, this is why they are sick. We love making a simple assessment of people's life so that we can point to the reason why. This is why they are in the position that they're in. Simple because it makes it comfortable for us, for our spiritual benefit. If I can point out what's going on with you in your life and say, well, that's the reason why, it makes it comfortable for me spiritually, because I just say, I must not do that, and I won't get that. Or it's easy for me to look down on you too. You say, well, because you did that, this is why it's happening to you. But with Job, God messes up our way of assessing people's life and say, because this man had character and he was blameless. You can't blame his mama. You can't blame his family or his wife. He is blameless. And so now it sets into motion, did he really deserve this? And all of us in here have a sense of pride. We stick out our chests because we present God with, the way my life is, I don't think I deserve this. I'm good, I show up, I worship, so I should not deserve any negativity that comes my way. I wish I see it all the time. I listen to people talk, and in a way they're wondering how bad things could happen to good people. And although while you are listening, you can analyze in them that they are saying, I don't deserve this. And you can be prideful in it, because then we start to dictate to God by our works what we deserve or not. I've been good, be good back to me. I've worshiped, I've fasted, now I deserve for you to take my life out of bankruptcy. I should not have lost my job because I've been worshiping you all this time. I don't deserve this. And that's what makes us all get so disappointed, because when we do the right thing and yet bad stuff happens, we look at God and say, I don't deserve it, and we are borderline ready to almost curse him. Maybe not in words, but in thoughts. I ain't showing up to church. Show up to church for what? He ain't doing anything for me. Might as well I do something. And you got to be careful if you're walking around with a attitude or a thought of what you deserve. Let me say that one more time. Be careful if you are walking around with an idea of what you deserve and trying to dictate to God what you deserve, because life will show you that you can get things that you don't deserve, good and bad. Well, don't miss that. Sometimes we get things we don't deserve on the good side. And sometimes we experience some bad stuff that we don't deserve on the bad side. If you can shout when God gives you something you don't deserve, then you better be prepared. Life will do that to you. Brothers and sisters, look at verse number 13. It begins at verse 13. Job's unexpected losses begin as his children are feasting or eating at the oldest brother's house. Sabians attack, stole oxen and donkey as they are grazing. And then they killed servants. They put the sword to servants. Messenger, a servant, escaped, and while he escaped and was talking to Job, while that servant was speaking, another comes. Bible says fire fell from heaven, burned up the sheep and servants, and once again a servant escaped, went to Job, and while he was speaking, the Chaldeans raided and swept down the camels and put swords to the servants. And once again while the servant was speaking, a strong wind blew through the four corners of the house where his children were, and it collapsed on the children. 4 tragic situations, all out of Job's control. 2 was the cause of people are just wicked. 2 was the cause of weather. All to show you that these are outside the control of Job. You can't control the wickedness that happens to you. Why are we so silent in here? You can't control the intentions of people, and you can't control the weather. In fact, your insurance will label this with the weather. When weather sweeps through, it'll call it an act of God. Can't control people, can't control weather. And so verse number 20 picks up where the morning begins. All Job has is gone. Everything he had is lost. The Bible goes through all his loving articles or things that he loved to show you wherever there is love, there will be loss. Let me say that one more time. Wherever there is love, there will be loss. The greatest gift that God has given us is our capacity to love. That's the greatest gift God has given us, is our capacity to love. Our greatest capacity to give love and receive love. And likewise, the greatest gift that we have is our ability to mourn what we lost. Wherever there is loss and mourning, you can point to where somebody loved something. If they don't mourn, they have never experienced love. Why I can't get nobody in here? Wherever there is love or wherever there is loss, that is a place where somebody loved. If you love a lot, you open yourself up to loss. Let me just talk to myself up here. If you open yourself up to be loved, you open yourself up to feel lost. If you don't want to feel love or you don't want to go through loss, shut your heart down and don't let anybody in. But if you open your heart up for love, you're going to experience some form of loss. Now, I know you don't want it, and some of you will say, I prefer not loving at all than to go through loss. You can always tell a person about their ability to love, because in that space of love, you're going to be let down. Are you with me, somebody? You have not loved until you experience loss. Let me say it one more time. You have not. If somebody leaves and you don't care, if they leave and thing is all good, that's if they leave and tomorrow life is picked up and going back on, that should tell you their ability to love. Because when you love and loss, it puts you in a grieving and mourning state. Have you ever mourned over lost love? Lord, you need Jesus. Don't start this. Don't start this. This is Sunday morning. Don't let me come for you on like I come for you on Tuesday. Here's what happened now. Verse number 20, it shows you that Job rose up. And this is important because it is not that Job was sitting down. But what's implied is that inside he has to now stand up. That his mental, emotional, psychological capacity heard the news. And oftentimes when you hear terrible news, it leaves you in a state of shock and sometimes even denial. And although you are moving, you are frozen in place. I wish I had somebody in here that understands. When you get shocking news, it shocks you still. And you are now going through a point of denial, having heard all about his land and heard about his cattle. Now he hears about the death of his children. Shocked him, but he understood that I can't allow myself to go into a mood of being non-emotional. Because some of us hide our feelings or hide our emotions in being non-emotional, or what we do, we get busy. We busy ourselves to distract us from dealing with the pain. I'm going to help you live through it. I'm going to help you live through it. What we do, instead of acknowledging the pain, we get busy to distract us of the memory. But Job says, I can't get busy. I have to give myself space to mourn. That I can't take a business as usual approach. I can't pretend that everything is fine. I can't automatically say, oh, well, let me just go on to my next thing. Let me just do something like that. Oh, I could take care of this. No, Job understood that there's no way I can let my busyness steer me away from confronting my sadness. Don't allow your busyness to steer you away from confronting your sadness. You have to be able to look sadness in the face and confront it, or you'll be running from it for the rest of your life. Job rose up. The Bible said he rose up. He did it publicly. Grief, he understood. Now, understanding grief and mourning, grief is internal thoughts, feelings of sadness when somebody dies. Grief is a container. Say with me, grief is a container. Grief is a container. It holds your thoughts, it holds your feelings, it holds your images, it holds the experiences of someone died, or someone lost. It is the internal container of what's going on. When you decide to mourn, that is you allowing your grief to go public. Grief in public looks like mourning. Hear it with me? Grief gone public is mourning. It is an outward expression of what's going on in your life. Now, we're going to move through there because some of us avoid the outward expression because we don't want anybody to know what we're going through. All right. I'm going to teach you how to live through your loss. Job tore his robe, or what we call koresh. It is a tangible expression of anger. Same way Jacob tore his robe when he thought that Joseph died. The same way King David, after hearing the news of King Saul, he tore his robe. It is a sign that I am mourning. It is a rending or a rent. When you hear rend your heart, it is a tearing open. It is an opportunity for psychological relief. You do something and you tear in order to provide yourself psychological relief. When you hold it in and don't do anything about it, you bog down the mind, and soon the mind can't contain the grief that it's holding. Touch your neighbor and say, live through it. It is a way of venting. And I think some of you have to learn how to vent righteously. This is a righteous venting. It is an opportunity for you to go through some act of destruction because of the loss you feel. When you feel loss, it's as though destruction has happened to you emotionally. Are you with me, somebody? He rips his clothes to show that this area of my life, I am mourning and I'm doing it publicly. I'm always fascinated by this public show of mourning. It is representative of the separation now between you and what you love, the tearing away. Normally you would do it over the heart. Because what it is that you are tearing, basically you are exposing your heart to relieve the grief that's inside. So when you see that somebody rips, it is what they are doing is they're saying, I'm exposing my heart to relieve myself of the grief. We struggle against exposing our hearts. When we are suffering, now I'm not talking about sometimes when we go through loss as in death, everyone knows. But there are little levels of suffering and grief that we go through that we put on a form of strength. And we struggle against exposing our hearts because it makes us vulnerable. And the last thing we want to do is be vulnerable in front of people. We fear that when they see us as weak and exposed, those that may not like us will take advantage of us. That this person is weak, and so in order not so that they can be intimidated, or they may intimidate you, we pretend like it's nothing going on because we don't want to expose what we're going through. We deny it. We repress it. We don't want it to interfere with us at church. We don't want it to interfere with us at work. We don't want to interfere with us at home. All of this because we live in a culture that wants to avoid mourning. And understand, my dear brothers and sisters, I'm not concerned about that. If you don't let what you have out, I'm concerned that there is no place for God to enter if you don't allow the things inside you to get out. Yeah. You have to open space for God. Because when you don't, unrecognized pain is unreleased healing. Unrecognized pain leads to unreleased healing. Pain that is denied, you deny your deliverance. You expose your heart not because of what they say, but you have to get what's out, what's in there out, in order for God to get in. Have you ever dealt with somebody that holds all of their emotions and all the problems that they're going through? That when they don't open up, that place where there's pain becomes a place of resentment. And in their heart becomes cancerous and black and cold because they sit on everything that they have in their heart, and they don't allow God to open, they don't allow themselves to tear open their hearts and expose it to God for God to get in. There's certain things that God will not do for you, that you have to open yourself up to God for God to get in. That's why he said a broken and a contrite heart he will not despise, because God needs access. And the longer you pretend and close it up, God deliverance. Oh, I can't get no help in here. I'm teaching you how to live through it, because what you will do is sit on your pain and you won't allow yourself to recognize it. You are in a form of denial. And if you are denying it, you can't be delivered from it. Where's my help in here? The longer you deny it, you can't get deliverance. And so it is for you to tear open, rent your heart, and let God know, here is the area that I hurt. We was talking to Tuesday night. It comes to the point where you just got to be honest with God and says, this is what's hurting me. This is what I'm going through. Because the longer you pretend to be strong, God can't really heal what you need him to heal. I can't get no help in here. So the first thing you have to do, like Job, he rented his heart. He rented his garment as a sign that I'm exposing my heart because I'm publicly mourning. The second thing he did, he shaved his head. Another version of public mourning, because it's a sign that a change happened. There's been loss. And it's a physical sign that everybody knows what's going on. That every time you look at this is why when bad tragedy happens, you see somebody shave their hair off. It is not that they are crazy. It is them expressing the loss that's going on. Also, it is what they say is that it's almost as a rebirth. that you are going back into your mother's womb when you came out bald. You are, it is a rebirth of what you're going through to let you know I'm suffering, but I know a change has to happen. That the old me is gone. And a new me is on the scene. It is a sign that I don't care what people say. When you see people shave their head after a loss, they are releasing the superficial. I'm releasing what people think. I'm releasing what people opinions. I'm releasing what you might have to say. I know what I'm going through, and in ways, this is how I'm going to mourn publicly. I'm expressing myself because I believe that it is God going to do something for me. And I don't care who knows I am suffering because I know God sees me. When you get the strength enough to not pretend around people who don't like you anyway, that you can suffer regardless of what people think, you open your heart for God. You see a lot of pretend strength, which just makes people weaker. The longer you pretend to be strong, is the weaker you get. You got to realize once you open your heart up to God and you say, Lord, I am weak and lonely. I am bruised. I am hurt. I've been rejected. It was then that I always say, then the Lord takes you up. He opens his heart, shaves his head, and here's what I like. Then he moves into worship. Because now it's the part of your life where he is not asking God to change things. He is not asking God to pull him out. His worship is not a solicitation. His worship is an invitation. Because often we solicit God with our praises for him to pull us out of what we're going through. And we prostitute God with our worship to try to get him to do what we want. This is not us soliciting heaven. This is not Job soliciting heaven to say, pull me out of this. This is Job saying, God, if you don't take me out, I'm inviting you in this with me. My worship is not a solicitation. It is an invitation to God to say, God, if you don't come out, if you don't pull me out, I'm inviting you inside. I wish I had some help in here. You are inviting God. In my prayers, it's not saying, Lord, pull me out. Lord, take it away. It is an invitation to God to say, Lord, be in it with me. Don't turn off the heat. Stay in it with me. Don't change it out. Don't take it away. But I understand as long as you are with me. Most of our praises, we need to get that type of praise. I will go through it as long as you go through it. I go through it with you. I can deal with the pressure. Do it with me. I can deal with the pain. Just do it with me. I can deal with the rejection. Just do it with me. Somebody says, they do it with me, Lord. Yeah. We got to check the way we are praising. I'm being honest. I'm being serious. We have to check the intentions of our worship. Am I worshiping merely because I want God to pull me out of my stuff? Or am I worshiping to say, I trust your decisions, and I want to invite you here because I understand you know all things. My prayer, my worship is an invitation. My praise and my worship is not based on results. I'm not praising based on the result. I heard the result, and I'm going to worship anyway. I heard the result, and I'm going to worship anyway. Here's what we do. Here's what the logic we use behind it. The higher the pain, right? If the pain is higher than the purpose, we quit. If the pain exceeds the purpose, we quit. If the pain exceeds the purpose, we'll quit, because we are balancing out, this is too painful, so I'm going to leave. I'm going to quit. What the enemy thought, if you increase the pain, Job will forget purpose and quit on you. Come on, don't. If I turn up the pain and make the pain more than the purpose, he'll quit. But Job said, I remember my purpose is greater than any pain. You know why people are quitting all over the church or all over the world? They forget their purpose. When you remember your purpose, you can go through any sorts. I can't get no help in here. You can go through any sort of pain. The enemy is using pain to make you forget your purpose. What the enemy saw with Job was that, man, you took all of that away, increased his pain, but Job knew that my purpose is with God, and if I serve God, I can get through any amount of pain. Can I let you know something? With God, you can get through any. I'm preaching to myself. Here's what we want. We want God to snap his finger and trouble is over. Not to bring the movie in there. I don't know. How many seen Avengers Endgame? If you understood what the movie was about, the movie was about dealing with grief. How do we deal with grief? That's what the movie was about. The movie was about how do you deal with grief? That in a snap of your finger, everything's changed. For those of you that watched the movie, just watching it, let me just help you out. It's how you deal with grief. By the snap of your finger, all your loved ones are gone. And all through the movie, Thanos was trying to explain to them, you don't know how to deal with what's lost, because in your mind you keep going back to what you remember. And as long as you can remember what you've been through or what you had, you will always fight for it to come back again. Okay, let me help you. You will fight for it. And so they went, what he did, he told them, you created a machine to go back in time to fix things the way you want it, instead of dealing with what you lost. All of us in our way want God to snap his finger and bring back everything that we might have lost, or to make life the way we want it. Is this too much? We all want. You know what we do when we lift our hands in service sometimes? That's what we want. God, I'm lifting my hands because I want you to change my job. God, I'm lifting my hand because you know I want to get married. God, I'm lifting my hands because you know I want my credit score to go up. God, I'm lifting my hands because you know I really need your healing. And nothing is wrong with that, but when it becomes everything, and when God increased the pain, and you can't see your purpose, slowly those hands don't go up anymore. Now, because I look at life is the same, problem is the same, health is the same, still no job, and then you'll say, where is God? And God said, I'm still here. Regardless of what your life goes through, I'm not trying to get you to change your decision. I'm just trying to get my life up to understand what my purpose is. And so instead of God changing the pain, I say, God, increase my purpose. I'm not praying for the pain to go away. I'm praying that God increases my purpose. God, let me see purpose regardless of the pain. Can I help you? Can I help you pray? Your prayers at night should not be about what people do or what they are doing. God, help me succeed in spite of everything. Oh, God, I can't get no help in here. Yes, Father, I know your results. I see the way that you answered. Now help me, God, understand your way. Teach me your ways. Teach me your way, oh God. Okay. How do we live through it, Pastor? How do we live through it? You give yourself the opportunity to mourn. You give them the opportunity to grieve. But you make sure you leave the back door open, because you don't want grief to stay too long. You want grief to come, and you want it to go. You wrench your heart and expose it so that God's healing can get in. Because in moments like these of painfulness, we ball up in protection. And the last thing, you begin to worship. Not for God to change, but for God to change you. You are not soliciting heaven. You are inviting God to join you. Or more, Lord, let me see what you see. Show me what you are using this painful season of my life to bring out in me. Show me how this is going to make me stronger, although I feel like I'm getting weaker. I'm depending on you because I know you can do it and you will do it, but allow my faith or allow my emotions to catch up to my faith. Allow the way I feel to be wrapped in your faith. Not that I'm inhuman, but I have a better understanding. How do you live through it? This is how you live through your loss. God makes ways even through losses. Stand everywhere, stand everywhere. Every now and again, I get the urge that we want. God, put oil on it. Put oil on it, all on it, and things go away. A few weeks ago, I told you sometimes it's not that God is trying to remove it, he's trying to prepare you for it. And that's when you have to ask him, is this taken away or this is preparation? Because along this journey of life, we have to travel through loss and death. Untimely, unexpected, but it's a part of the journey. It's a part, Sister Pat, of your story. And not for us to ever fast forward the pain. But 3 years from now, that's what I asked God. 3 years from now, how am I going to be? But you try to take yourself in the future and say, how is this going to help me in the future? Because you know there's a lesson in it. Lord, let me learn it while I'm crying. Let me learn it while I'm hurting. Let me learn it while my heart is broken. Let me learn when I'm surrounded by grief. Don't stop learning. Come on, grab your neighbor's hand and say, you can live through it. Come on, look at somebody else and grab their hand and say, you can live through it. Come on, grab somebody else and say, live through it. This experience is so much like Job, week after week after week. You can live through this. Yeah, I know it. God will give us the strength to live through it. Come on, Sister Pat, let's just pray for pass me not. Is that pass me not? Pass me not, oh gentle Savior, hear my humble cry while on others thou art calling. Do not pass me by. Savior, hear my humble cry while another's down calling. Oh, do not pass me by. Come on, one more time. Pass me not, oh gentle. Pass me not, oh gentle Savior. Hear my humble cry. Yeah, and while on others thou art calling. Somebody say, do not pass me by. Yeah. Savior, hear my humble cry. And while there's all of us are calling, what we say, do. Yeah. Come on, open your mouths all over. Somebody scream out, Savior. Save. Yeah. Savior. Hear my humble cry. Yeah. We say, why? Oh, calling. We do. Come on, both hands in the ear. Both hands in the ear. Somebody hollow out. Come on. We say, Savior. Savior. Hear my humble cry. Yes. We say, why? Thou art calling. Do not pass me by. Yeah, last time all over. One more. Come on. We say, Savior. Savior. Hear my humble cry. Why? All of us. Do not pass me by. While others are calling, while others thou art calling, do not pass me by. Come on. While others thou art calling.